Restoring Men in History, we want to make better, so we're taking a look at Good to Great today, the book by Jim Collins. And I love this book. It's magnificent. I think if you follow some of the principles in it, you can go from good to great. Now, there are three intersecting circles we're going to talk about, but let me look at the essentials that he looked at. He did a lot of research and had a big team work on this. And this can be applicable to if you own a business, or if you want to own a business one day, or you're an employee, but you own that part of the business, right? Or you're a division manager and you own that and you want to go from good to great in your division, or good to great with your sales team. Whatever you're running or doing, I think this book is applicable in your personal life as well, to look at these questions and ask yourself these questions we're going to give you. Why? Because we want you to be great, right? We do this so men can be great, making men great again, right? So we want men to be great again. Let's go. Here's the introduction. In essence, can a good company become a great company? And if so, how? That's the point. Or is the disease of just being good incurable? Now, there's a chart there. In essence, we identified companies that made the leap from good results to great results and sustained the results for, guess what? For at least 15 years. That's pretty amazing, right? If you can sustain success 15 years, you can change your life, right? We compared these companies to a carefully selected control group of companies that failed to make the leap. We want you guys to make the leap and be great, making men great again. Or if they did, fail to sustain it. We then compared the good to great companies to the comparison companies to discover the essential and distinguishing factors at work. So you want to know, right, that? You want to know the essential and distinguishing factors that can make you go from good to great, whether you own a business or want to own a business, or you're an employee and you want to make that your business. In other words, when you're an employee, at least I always felt, you have that division or that point where you believe you own that and you run that, right? All right, the good to great examples that made the final cut into the study attained extraordinary results, averaging, get this, ready, man? Cumulative stock return 6.9 times the general market in the 15 years following the transition points. To put that in perspective, and get this, you always hear about General Electric, how great they are. General Electric, considered by many to be the best-led company in America, outperformed the market by 2.8. So there you go. That's pretty much an endorsement. He looks at Walgreens and other companies, and we'll go through them and the questions they asked themselves and the meetings they had. But we're only going to cover the Hedgehog success. So we're going to start with Chapter 5, Jim Collins, Good to Great, the Hedgehog concept. In his famous essay, The Hedgehog and the Fox, Isaiah Berlin divided the world into hedgehogs and foxes. Which do you think you are? Based upon an ancient Greek parable, the fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hedgehogs see what is essential and ignore the rest. So he goes through all these different companies. We'll give you one, Walgreens. And he was interviewing Cork Walgreen, asking questions. And he kept trying to go deeper. And what was it? It was simplicity. What was the concept? Simply this: the best, most convenient drugstores with high profit per customer visit. High profit per customer visit. That's it. That was the breakthrough strategy that Walgreens used to get these companies. You ready? Intel, GE, Coca-Cola, and Merck. And it embarked on a systematic program to replace all inconvenient locations with more convenient ones, preferably corner lots where customers could easily enter and exit. They even bought out to get out of leases at $1 million to get out to make this strategy work. All right, so in a minute we're going to put circles up, but here's the key, and here's the chapter summary at the end of this chapter. Hedgehog concept. Simplicity within 3 circles that you got to remember. To go from good to great requires a deep understanding, remember the word understanding, to these intersecting circles, translated in a simple concept, the hedgehog concept. So here's the 3 things that you got to ask yourself. Now ask yourself this, and then at the end of you asking the question, we'll put the chart up. What are you deeply passionate about? What can you be the best at in the world? What drives your economic engine? All right, now you can see these 3 circles and how they overlap. And that was the key to the hedgehog concept, these overlapping circles. You got to answer these questions in your team meetings. The key is to understand what your organization can be the best in the world at, and equally important, here's the other question they asked through the book, what it can't be. So if you sat down with your divisions, with your manager, and said what we can't be, or in your business, say you have a small plumbing company, what can't you be the best at? That was a key question. And by the way, he goes into this in the book. It's not what the company wants to be. It's what you can be the best at. So you can apply to this to personal life too. Not what you want to be the best at. What are you the best at? Now, if you have a goal and you want to develop skills, it's possible you might become the best at in personal life, but this is for companies too. So in a company, he's saying for sure, look at what you can be the best at. Look at what you are the best at. The hedgehog concept is not a goal. It's not a strategy or intention. It's an understanding. If you cannot be the best in the world, and this was key, at your core business, then your core business cannot form the basis of your hedgehog concept. The best in the world, understanding is a much more severe standard than core competence. You might have a core competence, but not necessarily have the capacity to be the truly best in the world. This is from the book right here, the chapter. Conversely, and I'm reading it to you, there are maybe activities which you could become the best at, but which you have no current competence. To get insight into the drivers of your economic engine, search for the one denominator, profit per X, or in the social sector, we went through Walgreens, so you'd have this example. So you could have done profits, right? Cash flow per X that has the single greatest impact. So let's look at some examples before we go on. So Walgreens could have been, we want to have the biggest store profit, but they changed it to customer, right? So how do you want to measure it? These are going back to measurements, right? So if you run a sales team, what do you think, what's going to be the cash flow from that? What are you going to measure at? What's your economic engine going to be, right? Is it going to, if you close certain deals, is it going to bring more money to the company? So let me give you an example. I found this out to be true in software. If you do large deals, I got a better return for me personally and the company than small, medium deals, because small, medium deals would end up taking a lot more time and I could really focus and get it done. And for this type of software, it was better for a larger company. So you got to look at all these things. What will be the economic engine going into that? And the circles have to overlap. Getting the hedgehog concept is an iterative process. The council can be a useful device. So in the book, he talks about this in this chapter. You can form a council and talk and ask questions and fight and debate about these questions to make yourself better and to find these answers. So you might want to form a council and have this out at your company or the company you're proposing if you're thinking about starting a company. The good to great companies are more like hedgehogs, simply dowdy creatures that know one big thing and stick to it. So know one big thing, stick to it. The comparison companies are more like foxes, crafty, cunning creatures that know many things that yet lack consistency. It took 4 years on average for the good to great companies to get a hedgehog concept. So you don't have to get it today. It took most of the companies 4 years to get this. And it seemed like there was a lot of debate and arguments and fights. Strategy per se, and this was interesting in the book as well, strategy per se did not separate the good to great companies from the comparison companies. Both had strategies, and there is no evidence that the good to great companies spent more time on strategic planning than the comparison companies. Isn't that interesting, right? You absolutely do not need to be in a great industry either, they found out. You do not need to be in a great industry to produce sustained great results. And again, he was looking at sustained great results. No matter how bad the industry, every good to great company figured out how to produce truly superior economic returns. All right, so that is some of chapter 5. I want to go back, Philip Morris, and hit those circles a little bit. Now, I want to say this was a fascinating part of the chapter, understanding your passion. When interviewing the Philip Morris executives, he encountered intensity and passion that surprised us. But there was a guy at the beginning of the book, chapter 3, who described his working at his company as the great love affair of his life, second only to his marriage. So a lot of these guys loved what they were doing, or they loved what it was accomplishing. So even with the most, what he says, sinful collection of consumer projects, we love cigars. Marlboro cigarettes, Miller beer, 67%, fat-filled Vivetta. We found tremendous passion for the business. Most of the top executives of Philip Morris, here's the key point, were passionate consumers of their own products. In 1979, Ross Millhiser, then vice chairman of Philip Morris and a dedicated smoker, said, "I love cigarettes. I love cigars." It's one of the great things that makes life, and get how passionate he is. It is one of the things that makes life really worth living. The Philip Morris people, he found out, clearly loved their company and they had a passion for what they were doing. Do you have a passion for what you're doing? It's as if they viewed themselves as the lone, fiercely independent cowboy depicted in the Marlboro billboards. Quote, "We have a right to smoke and we will protect that right." A board member told him, I really love being on the board of Philip Morris. It's like being a part of something really special, she said, as she proudly puffed away. Jeff Snow, this could be for you. Jeff Snow has about 8 cigars a day. Jeff Snow loves cigars. Sometimes 6. I think he was 6 a day, but I've seen him, he's told me he's done 8 before. But he has 6 cigars a day. That's his goal. That's Jeff Snow. Now you might say, but this is just defensive. Okay, so that's passion. Now he goes in comparison to R.J. Reynolds. They didn't have that passion. And the Philip Morris people stuck more to the tobacco business. The R.J. Reynolds people went away from it. One more thing. You might be sitting there today and say you're not the best at anything, and he found out that was okay too. You can still become the best at something too, he said. So we wanted you guys to have these principles of the hedgehog concept. These are success principles. We think you can make your life better in many ways. Go.